the big show. Today's a big day.
It is.
It's the 4th anniversary of ERC-721.
That's right.
And I'm here to celebrate the birthday with you, Daddy.
We got balloons and everything.
We got balloons, we got lights, we got billboards we've taken over. Every floor in this place is full of our peers as well as all the other 6 buildings that we have going on.
Yes.
It's awesome.
It's a shame that we can't zoom out too much.
Yeah.
Zoom out to
There's
like
so
4
much to
or
show.
5 floors at the same time.
I know.
I love how the registration's on the 9th floor so you can see
Everything as you
And
go
you're
up
like,
and
does this stop?
yes. We 50,000 square feet of wall space that we've covered up with all of our sponsors and the amazing projects that are building in the space. So good.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm here just to be a part of your thing. You do this once a week, so why don't we kind of focus on your community and say hello and see where the time takes us.
Yeah, so hello, NFT Community Service Hour. NFT Web3 Community Service is a weekly call that we do, and we get questions left and right. So I do it the same way. If people show up, they ask questions. If they don't show up, we have questions we pull up and we go through. And if you're in this community, you can answer them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of these questions are really about the direction. It's about the intention.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get technical, but it's really a question of what should we be doing,
Right.
and how do we attract the right people into this community.
Right. So June 1st, 2018.
Yep.
So tell me a bit about the day.
21st.
Yeah, 21st,
Yep.
June 21st,
Yep.
yes. Tell me a bit about the day. Like, what was the day like 4 years ago that it happened? And then maybe we could go to the backstory afterwards. I want to hear about that actual moment 4 years ago.
So that was the day. ERC-721 is a technical standard. So it's a document that was ratified or accepted by the community using a process. Now, this process didn't exist for other ERCs.
Right.
So the ERC-721, we created the process and we're creating the runway and pushing the plane at the same time.
Okay.
Right? So it proved that the NFT was worthy, that the ERC was worthy, but also that the process is viable.
Right.
And so that was like, oh wow, this actually worked.
Yes.
Because we had fought for quite a while to make the runway and make the plane and build the plane
All at the
as
same
we're
time.
flying it, while there's competing planes which we needed to merge and weld onto our plane
Right.
to prevent factions.
Yes. Do you think it is, how would it be different to accomplish the same goal in the same way today compared to 4 years ago and compared to, let's say, 4 years before that when things were just getting started? What was that process like? Was it more friction back then? Was it less friction because there's less involved? Tell me a bit
This is a
about
great
that.
question because the impetus of standardizing this was CryptoKitties.
Right.
That was it. And so if you remember the first
Very
NFT.NYC,
well. November 2017
Yep.
is seared in my mind.
well, no, here in New York.
Right. Okay, yeah, I know.
With the
yes.
signs downstairs, I guess that would have been the Palladium.
Yes, that
right?
would have been Palladium.
And so that was
February
that was,
2019. That's
yep,
right.
And they had
It's History Day, everybody.
it's history, and they had the big sign there. And so the question was also the party before that was Hong Kong. That was a one and
Right.
only. That was a one of one party.
That's right.
NFT.NYC is a recurring party, but Hong Kong Cyberport,
Yes.
Nifty GG was the christening
Right.
of NFT, right? And so really it was, how can I do this?
Yeah.
Because the first movers, they're the copycats.
Right.
So we had crypto cats, and everybody's thinking, I want to do
The next crypto anything.
crypto dogs. Usually people say, but yeah. So they're like, well,
I'm going to ask
they
you
made
questions,
10 million.
not answer
I'm going to make 10 million, right? So that was the gold rush. And so your question was, why was 2018 the year to do this? And the reason is because the gold rush, people were getting antsy.
Right.
They wanted to do this. They're like, they're at the starting line and they're warming up and they're like, let's go.
Let's run.
Versus 2014, 2013 would have been like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Right.
Versus now like DAOs.
Yeah.
DAOs are like, yeah, maybe we need this. We don't know how to do this.
Right.
Centralize everything. Does anybody even care about voting?
Right.
Like in the United States, do people care about voting? Sometimes, maybe. And that's for a highly visible thing.
Right.
How do you care about which CryptoPunk is taken
Right.
by your group, right? So these are questions that we are the 5 years ahead
Yes.
on DAO. And that's what 5 years ahead of CryptoKitties would have been.
Right.
Is these discussions. Do we really need, I'll give you a line. When we're standardizing ERC-721,
Yeah.
one of the questions, which my goal is to get everyone to agree so that we
Yes.
can standardize into one
Right.
standard.
The consensus.
Right. And
move forward on the same page.
my contribution is the standards that were revoked, not the one that was passed, like the ones that were rescinded, right? And so one of the issues was metadata. People could not agree that metadata was an important part of NFTs.
Interesting.
They thought it was just the number, not the picture, not the description.
Okay.
And so I said it should be required, and they said, well, it's kind of bloated. We don't need these pictures. Not everybody wants pictures with their NFTs. Like, this is just a CryptoKitty thing.
Right.
Pictures are a major part of NFTs.
I mean, look what it's become.
So 5
and where
years
it's
before,
going.
people would have had pictures not be part of NFTs.
Interesting.
So that would have just been no motivation to do that.
Right.
History was written. We have metadata. Basically, everyone uses metadata.
Yes.
99.9%. And then 5 years from now, it would have been a disaster. You would have had the balkanization. I hate to say that because I know the people in the Balkans, but the balkanization of the blockchain, right? So you would have had the Coinbase NFTs and the OpenSea NFTs and the Rarible NFTs, and they would all be separate.
Right.
Oh, and PS, you would have the Rarible wallet and the Coinbase wallet. And
Instead
so that
of one
would,
protocol, one standard everybody's following.
we barely have the standard now.
Right.
We're 4 years in, fourth birthday, and these NFTs, think of how big this is,
Right.
and the protocols barely support this.
Yeah.
Like, you can barely log into MetaMask and see your NFTs. You can barely transfer these things.
Yes.
We barely have a marketplace that sometimes works. Seaport was just announced. That's a new phase in marketplaces. Maybe that's some unity.
Yes.
But otherwise, we came at the right time where people knew what we're talking about, but there wasn't too much crazy off the rails that we were fragmented. So perfect timing.
Does everybody agree about how this happened 4 years ago? Does everybody share the same story of history? Or do people have different perspectives of this day? Do you have a different perspective than your peers that were kind of part of it? And why might people have different viewpoints of what happened 4 years ago that led us to this moment today?
So I try to keep these interviews contemporaneous notes. So I have them from 2018 to one, so you don't think that my memory is getting worse. Like, you can actually go back and see how I said it before.
Right.
But my opinion is that this was really of a coming together. What I remember most is the phone calls.
Okay.
So if you're in this scene since 2018, you have my phone number.
Right.
You have it because we've been on the phone, or I've offered it to you in case you have questions, right? So that's how it opened up. And so I remember all these discussions individually, one by one, lining people up to standardize this.
Right.
So that's my perspective and how it's colored. Other people, luckily, there wasn't any fighting or contention after this date.
Good.
Before, there was a lot of healthy fighting. You weren't fighting.
Yeah, everybody's pushing for their own perspective, what they think is in the best interest of everybody, right? They all have their reasons for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was all love, and then the result is what we got. Now, the 21st was a 2-week, part of the process was a 2-week waiting period.
Right.
So it started on May 31st, I guess, something like that.
Okay.
And then we had a 2-week process.
I see.
And so it was a 14-day review with no changes.
Okay.
And then somewhere in there we made a minor change, so we extended it to June 21st.
Right.
So we saw the date was coming.
Yes.
And then we got there. This was a novelty versus other standardizations where they would change it up to whenever they felt like it, and then they just finalized it.
Right.
So we really wanted to have a cooling off period. So this cooling off period attributes to the calmness of June.
I see.
Because everyone's waiting, is there a problem?
Yes.
We're all trying this, And I've deployed my contracts, other people deployed theirs, and whenever there was a change, I had to redeploy.
Right.
And I had to pay to bring each person onto the new contract.
Right.
And so that's my skin in the game.
Yes.
Because everyone else had to do that too.
What was the conversation like with our team at NFT.NYC as we asked, hey, come give this keynote, tell the story, explain what's happening? I think you and I jumped on like a YouTube interview, like let's say the end of 18.
Yep.
But what were these conversations like as people realized, oh, okay, William's the guy to come and kind of speak on behalf of the community and all those that put this together. And so how did the spark of that relationship start, and where do you think that's led over the years? Because relationship is so important in this specific effort that we have in all things decentralization.
So I was invited, I guess, maybe one of the we're all early speakers, so I was one of the earlier speakers invited, and I got an opportunity to tell the right story and to have a stage. My actual stage time was minimal, so I was the closer, and back in 2018, a lot of people thought that minting 10,000 tokens was too many. The block it wouldn't work.
Right.
CryptoKitties had some scaling issues. They broke the internet.
Exactly.
So they thought that it couldn't be done. So I went on stage and I minted like a pentillion of them on stage live. And so I said, look, that's that's
on YouTube. I remember when you did that. it's there for everybody to see.
Here's a pentillion. We're live. Like, don't tell me you can't do 10,000.
Right.
So that was, I just got to address the problem of the day each time.
Yeah.
And to have the stage, not just the physical stage, but the connection, the access. Jody really just opened up the connections and talking to people and making the introductions, and that was the right thing.
Yeah.
Now it's harder to do that. We have stages, floors, buildings, but I still feel like I have this opportunity to tell the story.
Yeah.
My speech last year was about the 10-year plan.
Yeah.
So this was also the original from 2018. It was just 10 years where we're going.
Right.
And a lot of people are coming into the scene now. They're coming in, they're only seeing this.
Right.
And this is a phase.
Yeah.
A lot of this is a phase, and this is going to end soon.
Right.
And we're going to have a new phase. This is not sustainable or whatever. So just like in 2018, the issue was people didn't think there was scaling capacity.
Yeah.
Well, just last year, people thought there wasn't growth capacity. And we've already taken over the front page of the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, a lot of other newspapers.
We're the word of the year last year.
We're the word of the year for 2021. And I said, okay, well, you can't get 10x growth in that direction.
Right.
Unless it's Playboy, where the Wall Street Journal is going to have 10 front pages.
Right.
And it's all going to be NFT. Right. We're not going to achieve 10x growth in front page coverage on the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have the first 10 words of the year.
Right.
Again, the first time this word of the year is repeat, so we can't achieve 10x growth there.
Yeah.
And growth's not really the right, important word, but we're not going to see the momentum in that direction.
Yeah.
Where will we see it?
Right.
That was the question last year. And so I wanted to solve that. I wanted to solve that perception or the understanding problem.
Yes.
That was last time. This time, I'm coming back again. I feel like a lot of people might feel like this is inaccessible. There's, everyone's got fancy things and they're established. Everyone's established, even if they're not. And it feels like me as an individual artist or developer, whatever, can I really do this?
Right.
Can I do it? Can I be at NFT.NYC next year? Can I make it? You know what the sponsor fees cost.
Right.
And you know what it is to go through fundraising, right?
Right.
And it's not easy. So people see that and they think, can I really do this? So Community Service Hour is me talking one-on-one, questions as they come to everybody.
Yes.
I didn't disappear. I'm still here.
Right.
Still pushing the vision, still pushing the 10-year plan or whatever.
Yeah.
And still helping one by one to bring people in. So I think that is the problem we have today.
Yeah. Well, if there are questions, we can field those. If not, I'm actually going to bring in Gabe Viggers. He helps me MC the stage. He spoke today. He speaks tomorrow. He's our youngest speaker last year, so he's 19 years old. He's been working with me for 5 years.
Yeah.
So he's obviously got way different questions because of he's Gen Z,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going to switch out with Gabe, and why don't you come over? I'm going to mic him up and let you guys enjoy the rest of the conversation as this gives a chance, William, for you to
Hey, Dan.
get some different insight.
Dan, do we have the questions coming on? Were you able to post a question into Twitch? Because I don't see anything here. Awesome. So I just can't see your question. Awesome. It'd be nice if I could see him. I just see Activity Manager.
So the first one, two similar questions. So compare and contrast MIT, NFT.NYC.
All right, I think I found the.
Last year.
Compare and contrast NFT.NYC from this year compared to last year.
Nice. All right. I think we got 2 panels here. All right, so we can see. That's good. I can read the screen now. Now I can see it. That was all I
Awesome.
needed.
Awesome.
Cool. We'll get to that, but we'll start with Gabe.
I got a question right here.
Yeah,
So
YouTube's working.
let's see how do I. Yeah, here we go. So one of the questions we got is, can I succeed and be there on stage next year as a new and upcoming individual in the space? So Jay, a realtor, was saying that was a great question you were asking. So back to the two of you. Take it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hear that you are a huge reason as to why this is all happening in the world.
I'm a believer.
Well, that's awesome.
It's infectious. The belief is infectious.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. So are we going to go into some questions or?
Oh, well, you can introduce yourself and we'll warm it up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gabe Viggers. I am 19 years old. I was the youngest speaker at NFT.NYC last year, talking about Web3, NFTs, crypto, all that stuff from a fairly young person's perspective, more from kind of a product perspective because I'm a product manager for Ian. So mainly like kind of UI, UX, what are the sort of hurdles in order for my 12-year-old sister to be able to seamlessly purchase assets, or my 80-year-old grandma to be able to purchase assets, digital assets. And it really does need to be as simple as going on Amazon at the end of the day for true mainstream adoption to really occur. So yeah, that's what I do.
That's cool. Okay, so I feel like that's more of your vision.
Yeah.
These are your ideas. So how are you getting in there?
So I'll start off with a couple of key pointers. So for things such as like music, with music NFTs, for example, I have Snoop Dogg's music NFTs. I have a couple of my friends that I support. The interactability and the ability to create playlists with the NFTs and do all these different things, shuffle, all these sort of simple, they seem fairly simple, but complicated tasks to achieve are some pretty interesting things I also agree with. Also, what really fascinates me is, have you heard much of the ERC-725 protocol? That is quite fascinating.
Yeah.
With Fabian is doing, I think that's super, oh, am I out of it? I think that's pretty fascinating with what they're doing with the ability to be able to have key management systems, the ability to do all of those sorts of things that are pretty insane, which is like attach information to your account, personalize it, do all sorts of stuff like that I think is pretty interesting, but yeah.
Good. Cool. So if we have some questions, maybe we could just bounce them off.
Oh yeah.
And we could just take this co-host
Definitely.
style. Compare and contrast 2022 versus 2021.
So you want me to go?
Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, so last year, it was pretty intense, I'm not gonna lie. So I spoke at the Edison last year, and it was pretty terrifying, I'm not gonna lie.
The Maine or the South?
The Maine.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of fun, everyone's here is amazing, the culture's ecstatic, but when you're young and then you have to display your thoughts and what you think in front of a bunch of other people and then have to hear what they have to say, it was awesome, but it was definitely a little intense. Not the crowd was intense, but having to get up there, talk for 10, 13 minutes and have everyone examine your thoughts and what you think about this industry is pretty fun. This year, definitely way more people. There was a lot of people here last year, but there's a lot more attendees this year.
A little bit. 10,000 more.
Yeah, oh yeah. A lot more attendees. Yeah, it's a pretty awesome community that it's been awesome to see it grow, because I've been with Ian for about 4 years now, so I've made over 2,000 NFTs for like the Amazon community, the Google, because we work in voice technology.
Cool.
And so making NFTs for them was pretty awesome, and to bring, which I think is a pretty hot topic though, is to bring the merge the big tech and the NFT space, because that is a topic that some people don't want to talk about sometimes, but I think is going to be a pretty crucial stepping stone eventually, because we're gonna have to cross that line eventually.
Yeah, I'm on the record, and maybe this is a different audience, so I'll repeat it, but I'm a big fan of Web 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big fan of using some of the techniques, some of the ideas, some of the disciplines that we've learned, jettisoning Web 3 and applying them somewhere else.
That's exactly what one of my theologies is taking the concepts and the theories and the ways that this industry has taught us to maybe, and for example, this might not be an exact correlation, but the banning of third-party cookies in Europe, and that's going to continue to happen, is I think, I don't want to say that Web3 and NFTs is the reason for that, but I feel as if it was definitely a catalyst for this privacy movement and these sort of different aspects that are definitely needed and necessary. So yeah.
The writing's on the wall, things are moving, you want to notice. The reason I come to NFT.NYC, the reason why I hope other people are coming, is not just to meet other people in this room. I feel like this is a small community. We've got 15,000 people. Next year we'll have 25,000 people, right?
Yo,
this is small. This is very small. This is one building. This is not the entire city. Other events have the whole city on fire. More enterprise events. And even those are small. The amount of people that are using this technology, and platforms that are related to this stuff is huge. The amount of people that are here is small. So we need to take what we learn here and apply it out there.
100%.
Back at the cities we came from.
I agree.
We don't need to be, if you're coming here, maybe investing, that's a little different. You gotta meet investors and chase them around the world at all the conferences, that's one thing. But if you're here to sell you're doing it wrong. You don't sell here. You learn here, you connect here, you sell there. That world's way bigger. There's billions of people out there to spy. You've got thousands of people here that already have it. So that will get small. Now, luckily, one way we solve the problem is just make the event bigger. So the people keep getting sucked in to the event, and that's good. But that will only work so much. You can only double the number of people in New York City for NFTs a few more times. We can't do that for 10 years. Right?
You're right.
Like, the math, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I definitely see the insane. It's been pretty interesting to be involved with NFTs 4 years ago. It is still crazy because like when I was making these NFTs for Ian and stuff, and my friends, I was 15 when I started just making them, and then there's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm making NFTs. Yeah, I'm making digital assets for these people, and it's pretty crazy to see that the storm that has arose, because they definitely were like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, because eventually one day, in my opinion, I don't know if everything will, but I think a lot of important things will have a digital twin that represents its history or its past history of where it was created, all those sort of things, all that good stuff.
Yeah, connecting to the provenance, obviously, of ownership of things, but that's important to me too, for physical products, for things you buy, things that are important to you. I feel like the world of commerce is very big, so that's kind of how I frame the way that I say this, but I feel like there's a lot of, people buy things. People buy things for reasons.
100%.
All right, so you're going to buy this shirt. Why'd you buy this shirt? Why'd you buy this jacket?
I bought it because I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got doesn't have the collar thing, there's a lot of attributes about this. Maybe it's an expensive jacket. Maybe there's a reason why you like expensive jackets. Maybe there's specific reasons, like really specific. Maybe you like the person who sold it to you. Maybe you like the store you bought it from. Maybe you like where maybe it's organic cotton. Have you seen that?
I actually have. I've heard of it. I don't know if I own any organic cotton.
I don't know if that's a real thing. I don't know if that's like made out of cotton organs. Like what? I don't know what that means. But maybe that's really important to you. And that's something I want to trace too. So not just tracing ownership, but tracing heritage or tracing ingredients.
I was about to say heirlooms. I think is a pretty interesting thing. And so with the NFT space, I see just from my perspective. Have you ever read the book? It's really good. It's called Crossing the Chasm. It's about, so when you start a business, then you got to cross the chasm eventually. And I feel like NFTs are entering a crossing the chasm time in their evolution. All right, they're finding their product market fits and niches in music and insurance and real estate and all these different avenues. And I feel like we're definitely at a pretty fascinating and critical crossing the chasm moment. And I'm really excited to see. We're definitely going to cross that chasm, though.
I mean, I feel like I feel like we've crossed it. So I feel like crossing the chasm is about what I've understood. I didn't read the whole book, but I believe it's about the social proof of leaving your community or your tribe and going to the outside world. So, and I feel like a lot of that happens. So I do advisory work. I work with enterprise, government, these type of things, companies that my mom knows about and my grandparents know about. governments that my mom
That's
knows about.
amazing.
So it's like, that is the chasm. So to even be in that room, that's the chasm. So that's
Gotcha.
the social proof to me. I think that's what that means that we're talking
What
about.
what I meant by crossing the chasm was crossing the chasm to other than just a lot of the market is just simply JPEGs or art. I'm talking about like real estate,
Yep.
music, insurance with B2B maybe, B2B with smart contracts, all that sort of stuff. Like I feel like we're gonna cross maybe another super interesting, fascinating chasm of that nature.
Okay, so we've got you. So we're good on this. That was this topic of my speech last year, was the different phases of the vision. And so that's where I was trying to say that pictures, I'm gonna really give you a narrow bucket. So selling pictures from artists that are not established 5 years ago, and with a tinge of technology interest. Like that's a very specific market.
Yeah.
And even leaving that to go into selling artwork from artists that have a technology tinge that are established. That's a totally different market. There's different ways to sell, there's different interests, there's different players that are involved in connecting with these people. And we're starting to see them show up one at a time at NFT.NYC, but also in the real world, they will come in. I think that's one chasm. The other thing is that, so some of these enterprise use cases, I can tell you they're coming and they're deployed, but the shill factor's not there. So
What do you mean by that?
well, look at the front page of, have you seen any of these front page newspapers articles that I'm referring to?
Maybe.
You can probably guess.
What are you referring to?
The largest NFT sale price at an auction.
Oh, the Beeple?
Yeah, so the Beeple, that was on the front page of the New York Times.
It's on everything.
Right, and that was the front page. But did you know that Microsoft Xbox uses NFTs to track royalty payments?
I did not know that.
Barely anybody knows that. Now it's public. Disclosure, that I was a client of my client, but they said it publicly, so I can tell you. But no coverage. Why? Because you can't buy and sell them. There's no marketplace. They're not an OpenSea. They're just normal, boring. Boring is a positive word. Smiling, boring.
Yeah.
Boring enterprise use cases. Like that's the plumbing. The plumbing works. It's good stuff. So Microsoft Xbox is pretty big, and that is not artwork. It's not new artists. It's a company that my mom does know about, right? And my grandmom even. Like, so that's a different market. There's a lot of things that are different about it, but if we weren't talking today, you might not know about that. Right?
I need you to keep talking.
All right, some other ones. So I'll give you another use case. Client of a client is in Mexico.
Yeah.
And so they were doing COVID. We're ending COVID. You know, this is almost over, right? But they were having trouble with the COVID test result being faked. So in Mexico, the tests are maybe more expensive, relatively speaking, and you need them. In the United States, they're free, and you don't need them.
That's amazing.
I mean, if you really, you could fight. We've fought against the airlines to say that we don't need COVID tests because freedom, right?
Yeah.
But in Mexico, it's like you need a COVID test, and they're expensive, and you need to pay it, which creates a large opportunity for
NFTs?
No. Practical.
Oh.
You're in Mexico.
Oh.
You need this to go to work. You need this piece of paper, and it's expensive, and you don't have the money, and you can't go to work without it. What are you going to do? Either get it or
Not go to work?
work with me from the back. Fraud.
Fraud.
Right? You're going to print it on your computer, right? You're going to Photoshop
Oh, well,
that
if
shit.
you're going to break the rules.
Well, that's, you got to feed your family. See, this is the young perspective. When you got to feed your family, you kill,
I
you
guess
fraud.
I don't
you,
have any
yeah, you
children
gotta,
yet. Or
yeah, we gotta get that into you, right? So you gotta fight for the family. So, and that's what they do. And so the government's like, okay, well, we need to make COVID testing easier, but also we need to track this, prevent the fraud or something. NFTs was an obvious use case, and they're doing that. So you go to the airport, you get an NFT, you get a COVID test, you get an NFT, and it just timestamps it. That's all it does. This prevents a very specific kind of fraud where they would get a test and then scratch out the date and change the date.
So I have a question, and you don't have to say specifically. So for enterprise people like this or companies that you work with, are they using their own personal blockchain systems, or are they using, the ones that everyone knows about? Polygon, Ethereum, Solana, all the other ones.
So I mean, I'll take you into the sauce here. So Obviously, it would be nice if a lot of things could work in Ethereum or close to Ethereum, or just because it's the network or something, which is good. Practically, one of the things I've found is that the marketplace, these networks have a lot of money. So we've got here as a sponsor is Tron. We've got Polygon, they're a sponsor here. Are there any other?
Flow.
Flow's here. Get Flow is on third or fourth or fifth floor. So any others? We got a shout out.
Yeah, there definitely are. Hedera,
yep.
HBAR.
Is right there.
I love HBAR, the HBAR people. They're awesome.
Right, and so I'm not saying anybody specifically, but you know they're well capitalized. You know they're big projects, and they would love to bring your project on them. So there's some shopping. So sometimes people will shop their project, and it's competitive. So if you really have a compelling project, people will work with you, and so sometimes that's part of the decision making. Sometimes the decision is just based on a natural fit if there's a community specifically there, but I'm seeing less of that because I feel like a lot of these people are coming from the outside. So what the people on the inside that are going out, those are the biz dev people. So the biz dev people from those types of blockchains that we just said are going out into the world, and those are the biz dev people bringing them in to the network. So that's part of the decision. But I've launched projects on Ethereum Ropsten.
Gotcha.
I've launched, in fact, the COVID testing result, that's run on Ropsten.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You don't need any
awesome.
money to do COVID. We're not trading COVID test results. We're just time stamping.
You're right.
And so those are NFTs. We put them on Ropsten. It works great. So no need to do something else. The Ether's free on Ropsten. And we have a merge coming up, but it worked great.
Yeah, the merge. That'll be pretty interesting for sure. And when is it scheduled? I know.
Since 2018, it's been 3 months.
Oh.
3 months away, so I'm going to stick with that.
Are there any questions anymore?
Specific examples of Web 2.5. So yeah, let's bring this back to you too.
So specific examples of Web 2.5 to me is another thing is, and this might fluff some feathers, but you gotta do that sometimes. But people push really hard. Web 3, Web 3, Web 3, Web 3, Web 3.5. You know, it's so hard. Web 3. I think we push so hard for Web 3, so at least we end up in 2.5. You know what I mean? Some respect for the creator, some respect for the end user, some respect. So that's a big thing that I feel like
specific. Drill it in. Drill it.
I basically feel we're pushing so hard for Web 3, so at least we end up in some sort of a 2.5 situation where there is some more respect for the end user, the creator, musicians, you know.
But walk it through. What does that look like? How does it feel? Can you give us a specific use case, or can you just walk
perhaps
through?
maybe the business that you're running should not be 100% DAO. You know what I mean? Hiring and firing and all those sort of things. Maybe having some sort of a DAC or maybe some sort of a decentralized autonomous community in which they have some sort of ownership in the company. They're making some sort of delegated rules. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas.
Let's walk through this. All right, so we went a whole hour last time on soul-bound tokens.
Oh yeah, I've just heard about those the other day.
That was a whole hour into whether we want this or not and whether it's even good for humanity. So we can get a little deep into this. So okay, so equity in a company, what does that mean? Because there's equity as a word.
Yeah,
but we're not talking about that.
So it could be as a form of equity, or it could be you're buying into this community. You have maybe rights to vote on censorship on the platform, or something that give up censorship to the community that buys in, or perhaps they are voting on. They get to vote on specific product changes that you give up. You know what I mean? So creating some sort of a community that's attached to the company in which we can work together, they benefit because they believe in the company vision. They're also going to be rewarded for it and all those other different things. And so that's sort of my vision of sort of a 2.5 situation.
So stakeholder economy.
Yes, perhaps.
And the stakeholders are the customers.
Yep, 100%.
Or the participants. I hate the word users, so I go around that word. But
what are your thoughts?
Okay, so we can apply these ideas by having voting or voting that people trust, or consensus mechanisms, that's more broad than voting, of ways where we can bring the participants in Twitter, Reddit, an art project, your favorite restaurant, something, we can bring them closer to the manager's decision making. So the managers don't have to have a monopoly on decision making. They can share decisions. And the mechanism that we can use can be shared with stakeholders broadly. And there can be a lot of stakeholders. And so maybe some projects just want to have stakeholders that are customers. Maybe other projects want to have stakeholders that are fans. I know investors, like a lot of people think investors. Well, what is an investor, right? Do they need money? I think the money part is really going to get boring soon. I think a lot of people are focused on the money, and that's why it's boring.
Yeah.
So I think Whopper, the Burger King Whopper had Whopper Coin. This is one of the first.
I think I missed Whopper Coin.
Yeah, this is old. I'm dating this is before Ethereum. This is back there. It had Whopper Coin, and it was in Russia. And Whopper Coin, it was like a VIP or like buy some get some free, something like that. And you would accumulate these coins, which then was a blockchain. Totally ahead of their time. Way ahead of the time, which is why it didn't work. Just because they were too early. I'd totally bring that back. Not in Russia. But now's the time for that. But yeah, use those coins as a stakeholder proof. Proof of Whopper. Proof of eating Whoppers. And you can probably make a lot of headlines by just taking the opinions of verified Whopper eaters.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Somehow. And you don't need Web3 to do that. You can do it in an app. I know companies like having control over the 100% of the things. Use our app. Always use our app. We want to push you notifications. That's the whole reason people use apps. It's the only reason. They want to spam you. So use our app. That's compatible. Nothing wrong with that. Use the app, but maybe somehow take feedback. Oh, be humble. Listen, right? Oh, and PS, because there'll be skeptical people, they'll think you're. When you do that, when you have your app and you take the voting, well, maybe you're cheating.
Yeah.
Maybe you're rigging the vote. So that's where I'm bringing another concept. Maybe we have transparent consensus mechanisms. I don't know if I say voting, but like transparent ways that people can express their opinions. And that removes the thought of, we're solving problems. I'm looking into this, I'm pointing at NFT.NYC. I'm looking into this universe of solutions, and I'm pulling in these things that we can use here. So one of them is engagement and better decision making. What's the right amount of sesame seeds to put in a Whopper bun? A manager can guess, but maybe a community would be better.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just solved one problem, is optimization of the seed count on buns. Okay, well now we have a problem that people think the votes are rigged. Transparent consensus mechanisms. Okay, well now maybe people think, whatever it is, and then we can use this to make really good decisions. That's 2.5. That's
awesome.
Squarely in 2, that's like 2.0 plus, which is 2.5.
So I have to ask you this question because I talk to a lot of people and get a lot of really interesting conversations about this sort of stuff, and you seem like a perfect person to ask. What is your opinion, and what do you think is actually capable interoperability-wise amongst blockchains?
This is a dangerous question.
Is it a farce? Is it actually achievable? What is your opinion?
It's achievable, but it won't be achieved, probably. So here's the main nugget that comes in. You're dancing on the floor, and under the floor there's a rock. And so, depending on where you walk, the floor's tilting. And you don't know why it's tilting. You got to look at the rock to understand why the floor's moving.
I understand, yeah.
Here's the rock. The fulcrum here is that good security on a distributed network is hard. And these things grow. So that means that the value that's dancing on top of this platform it's small, but then it goes huge. You plan it for millions, it goes to billions. But the amount that was invested in the security was thousands. So you're spending thousands. Oh, and PS, if their take is too low, if they're not getting good percentages, and it's not equity backed, and they're not venture backed, they have very limited shoestring resources. Oh, and PS, these people aren't full time. They've got the other jobs. So those are the people, the enthusiasts. And then when they launch, it just goes crazy. So then it goes from million to 100 million, billion, 10 billion, and then it crashes, you get hacked. Because there's only 9 nodes running the damn thing. They hacked 5 of them, and they took everything. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's what happens, is you should not have 9 nodes. I'm not saying specifically what was wrong with that, but maybe 9 nodes is too small to run a $500 million network.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a node to value ratio that was violated here. Maybe that's a principle that was violated, and maybe there's other reasons why they were hacked. Maybe one person actually owned 4 of the nodes. I don't really look into that, Ronan, so much. But there's some value to effort ratios that need to be respected, and bridges are too damn valuable. I mean, bridges can move anything. So there's no limit on the value of the bridge. So this is a fundamental issue. If we're going to make a bridge, it has to be done, in a community process where they have expensive bug bounties. Where people like me, I see bug bounties, we'll pay you $100 if I'm not going to read your assembly code for $100. Oh, and PS, if I don't read it, I can scam you for $500 million. Like, I'm not on the dark side, and I don't need $500 million. But it's tempting, so I'm not going to go spend all weekend reading this for $100.
Yeah.
That's what's on offer. $100, $10,000, $1 million. Maybe if these things are so difficult, maybe even $1 million isn't enough for me. We need $10 million. Bug bounties. We need 6-month-long review periods for these bridges. But these bridges want to launch quickly, and once they launch, they get too big, and then they get hacked. The assumptions are violated. So
in a perfect world where everything's perfect and there's no problems and everyone's happy, what would it take to reach that, in your opinion? What would need to happen?
So,
is it resources? Is it time? Is it the correct people on the job? I mean, all those things combined.
We need the opposite of entrepreneurship. So we need Vitalik and Hedera to agree that this isn't a bridge that needs to be made.
I see.
And we need both of them to say publicly that when this is done, they will both officially support it. And they're going to give it 6 months. And if there's changes, they'll give it another 6 months. And they're going to have $10 million reward for anybody who can break it before they go live.
Interesting.
That gets us from here to there. Now, the official endorsement is huge. Nobody has official endorsement. In this room, there's plenty of bridges and networks and nodes and validators, and they're all unofficial, and they're all doing the same. They're competitive. That's entrepreneurial. And yet none of them will be officially accepted. So this official acceptance is a blessing that can really be valuable, right? So I think that's what it would take.
That's awesome.
Because otherwise, if you got one bridge here and you got another bridge there, this one works good enough, this one works good enough, which one wins? What's the answer? Whoever launches first.
Yeah, I guess.
Right, and so there's a competing interest versus launching first and then making something good. But if Vitalik and Hedera say that they're going to bless something, that has a lot of value. And they have never done anything
100%.
like that before. So I think that's what it would take.
Yeah, so are there more questions that they'd like to be?
Yes, so last questions here. Actually, I'm going to reach into the archives.
What are the pros and cons of having so many speakers?
Oh, yeah.
What are the pros and cons of having so many speakers? I honestly don't think there's a ton of cons, in my opinion, about it. I'd say there's a lot of the pros for me is really helpful because I can, like when I spoke last year, I was able to watch 100 and then be like, this is the groove, this is this is what the crowd's like, this is how you engage with the crowd and get maybe a laugh out and make them not bored. And so being able to, I think that a lot of speakers is a very good thing because then you get to hear all these different perspectives and all these different industries and how they're all trying to apply the technology and in their own different interesting way. And some of them are gonna be awesome. Some of them might not, but it's pretty fascinating to see. Some of the ones where they were at last year and some of the ones where they're at this year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on?
We have a ratio, right? So we have 10-to-1 usually speaker to attendee ratio. And the growth of the speakers really attributes to the growth of the participants because they bring people. These speakers have communities and those people want to watch them. So I think it's kind of, it's a given. We're not going to get to a 100-to-1 ratio. We're not going to have one speaker bringing 100 people with them because these are new projects. There's a lot of pirates and new people out there. So really the question is, do we have the right number of speakers? What are the pros and cons? Really the question is this event the right size? Is the event as a whole? So the ratio is going to scale. It's a balloon, you blow in it, everything scales like a balloon, right? So overall, NFT.NYC, what's the right size for this event? Well, there's pros and cons here. So one of the one of the cons is, the team, everyone here, you learn how to run bigger and bigger events. This is a team that has experience running 500 people events, running a 5,000 person event. People with experience running a 5,000 person event, running a 15,000, 25,000, right? So this team, we're really leaning on this team to deliver better and better things. If you remember the VIP dinner, that was a common.
The one this year or the one from last year?
In the Edison, the rooftop, if you remember,
Yes, I do remember.
Interesting, and that
Finger food?
the finger food. It was you ever run a marathon?
Yes, not in one go. I definitely had to take a break.
You got the nipple cream, because your nipples will get rubbed on. So the Edison last year, you had to put elbow cream because you're just the whole time.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, it was very roomy.
It was all elbows. It was all elbows, man. So I mean, you really had to. But that was the limit. Can you imagine putting 3 times as many people in that room?
Imagine putting the 2 floors from last night's, or was it the night?
Yeah.
Last night's. That would be insane.
Right. I mean, there would be like the bald people on the bottom, so the other people could stand on top of them. Like you can't do that, right? So we have to keep finding. We have to change these experiences to have it bigger. So the last night's dinner included an NFT auction. Well, that makes sense. It was a sit-down dinner. We had an auction. That was innovative, right? We couldn't have done an auction at the Edison rooftop. You couldn't reach into your phone to bid. It wouldn't make sense. So
I also remember if you wanted to talk to someone, you had to scream very loud.
Yeah. So people had
Which
no
was a lot of
voice
fun.
by the first day, and they're speaking at 9 a.m. and they have no voice because last night they were screaming, right? So that's one of the downsides is that it's not so much how large it is, but it's how fast it's growing. That this team, needs to bring experts. I remember, maybe not this event, but other ones where I've met the volunteers. I'm like, hey, I asked them a question. I'm like, I just started this morning, man. Like they hired me last minute. And I'm like, awesome, you know nothing. Like, you don't know which entrance to this building I need to go in. And they literally just put you there with the shirt on. So it's like, this is typical in these conferences. That's scaling, right? So that's the downside, is a lot, sometimes, maybe not here, but
I definitely agree with that as well.
there's unprepared events. I was running registration at Decentral. So Decentral, I was the first speaker. Nobody's in the building because there's no registration. I'm like, great, so I need to go scan badges if I want anybody to see my speech because I'm the opener. So I'm outside stalling, and I'm like,
when was that?
that was November 2021, Decentral. That was their first event. And I'm like, well, now you learn. Hire 10 times more people, scan badges.
Yeah.
Unless you want your speakers to be scanning badges, right? So I mean, it's ridiculous. But that's the downside. Fortunately, people are used to that. Fortunately, NFT.NYC has experience and is keeping up.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
good job.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Ian and our team, we don't deal with any of the admin.
Yeah.
We just help with, the interviews, co-producing, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's been pretty amazing. It's been pretty fun to basically almost like grow from 17 to 19 and to be in the community has been pretty fascinating to see everything, honestly, to see the growth, to see, like I said, the companies that were there 2.5 years ago, the ones that were there a year ago, how they've maybe pivoted or changed or all that sort of stuff. And I think that that's incredible to see.
Cool.
But yeah.
Great. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in there. We've got links on YouTube. This is a weekly call for my half. We've got links on Twitch and Twitter Spaces. And let's stay connected.
We will. Thank you so much.
Great job.
Thank you. Is it still
And we're going to do our wrap-up tweet in a sec.
Is it the X?